moving ahead, this is the second one. I'll be doing this, but just before that, let me do a little bit of change in the settings. Am I audible? Good. Okay. So, good evening, one and all. The book that I'm going to review, before I start the review itself, let me give you a small caveat. This is a very important, disclaimer kind of a thing. Those people who have been sitting on data for 60, 70 years, and those people who have been complacent about what they think has been the data and the kind of reality according to them, please don't listen to this review, because this review has got to do with a lot of facts. Almost every chapter has got about 50 to 150 reviews and surveys that she has done. So it expounds a lot of data bias, lot of misrepresentation, and a lot of facts that have been underlined, but could not see the light due to various reasons. Major reason being, one of the reason being the research not done as such directly, and even worse is not prioritizing that this research or this survey is as important to have been done. So with these words, let me start by introducing the author. The author of the book is Caroline Criado-Perez, and this is the book I am going to review, Invisible Women. As it reads, Exposing Data Bias in a World Designed for Men. So as you can understand from the very name of the book, it is true to every word it is written on the book. So she has done an excellent work and a groundbreaking work and effort to come up with the kind of data that shows very clearly. Here there is nothing like an opinion that you can say. It is only data which is glaring right onto the face, especially, like I said, to those people who don't want to accept that whatever is going on or whatever is going on so far is absolutely good. Women are absolutely fine. The systems are all fine, except for the fact that, women have a problem. Except for the fact that, women are very complicated beings, and the most mysterious creatures on the earth. So these kind of people have to surely understand that it is not right. They are living in a fallacy, because it's not just data that is glaringly showing it. There is also enough crime rate, enough violence, enough policy problems, enough issues with economy of a country that has very clearly shown that there are flaws. Let me go on to the details slowly. If you look at the kind of people who fail to accept that, all right, women do all this work in the house, big deal about it. Sorry, you're wrong. I'm not trying to talk about just justice. Here, the book actually brings in data which is pertinent to GDP of a country, and how unpaid services of women are affecting the actual GDP of a country. So 2 examples in 2 cases. If you account for the unpaid services of women in a country, UK, which actually shows around $2.6 trillion GDP, will be about $3.9 trillion if this unpaid work is accounted for. Again, India, which is showing about, this is a World Bank official figure in 2016. So none of the data is made up. So you will have to only go by the understanding that, yeah, we need to discover what is wrong and what has gone wrong so far. So second one is 2.6 trillion, 2.3 trillion is what India stands at. But if you take the unpaid services, which is services in the households, caregivers, etc., which are not paid for, it goes up to 3.7 trillion. Isn't this enough to slap everyone in their face that to make education, to make employment equal, keep it at equal parity to women, is something which is very important, not just for their justice, but also for the economy of the country and the overall development of the world. So with this base, if we understand that people who see women as just an added extra, a complicating factor, then I think they're just doing a big error. Why? Because all these data that has been taken so far has been taken by men in most of the cases. And women have not been able to be there in the very senior roles right from the beginning. So unfortunately, the perspective of what a woman is, can you imagine, just think about very small point, you as a woman are being governed by men who don't even understand how a day in your life goes, how your insecurities are, how your problems are, how your assaults are in the so-called open society, which is completely scary with the kind of violence that is there. Everything, she touches upon all industries. There is no industry that she leaves. She talks about how the so-called nurses, profession of nurses is affected. It is very shocking to understand that more than the police, more than any other places where we expect violence rates could be high for a woman, it seems women who are working as nurses actually face worst violence in their life. Be it at the workplace or be it while they're commuting, irrespective, because they, just like the doctors, they should be on call. There is nothing like this is a time or this is not a time. And imagine this is from one small sector, but if you look at the kind of things that she brings in, the kind of data that she gets in, it is absolutely astounding. McKinsey research, for example, indicates that if you decrease the load of a woman's work, usually on an average, women work between 3 to 6 hours in a day, while a man works somewhere between 30 minutes to maximum 1.5 to 2 hours in a day. This is the global one. I'm not just talking about India. I'm not talking about our house or your house or something like that. See, if it was just our individual house, it is something to do with apologies and corrections or some kind of corrective actions eventually. No, it never happened like that. Small misogynistic remarks, small sexist remarks, small negligencies, all these things have percolated into the big macro global aspects of how our fate has been. So these people who are governing, people who are making the law, everybody who's sitting up there, first of all, including the way in which public places, including the way in which the public transport system is planned, including the way in which the city is planned. She describes very wonderfully how things have hopelessly gone wrong right from the day one. Because just a simple example, if a man, it's according to a man, a work and home are two places where he would commute. So considering that default human being is male, and the woman is a complicating creature, going with this assumption, the kind of assumptions, the kind of planning that has been done and that has been implemented has gone wrong in so many places. Why has it gone wrong? I will tell you why. There is enough data supporting a lot of violence, a lot of crime, and a lot of problems to women when they commute between more than one vehicle or two vehicles to get their job done. For women, it's not just work and house. They are bound to take up a lot more works apart from this. So they tend to have more and more pressure. They tend to have more and more risk, most important part about commuting. So if the bus stops are designed in such a way wherein workplace is here and then the house is here, where are the households, where are the bus stops? This kind of theory, it didn't work. In most of the countries, there have been alarming rates of sexual abuse. There have been alarming rates of robberies, violence against women. Now, this is one part of it. Going ahead, also, if you look at some of the data pertinent to wealthy countries, if you look at not just wealthy countries, wealthier families as such, a wealthier family, for example, a husband and wife are there, both are working, and then they have a domestic help for their work to be done. Despite the fact they have a domestic help, they still have to work at some point of time. So in these times, it is seen that women, when they work outside, they come back and do the unpaid work again inside the house. So it is just that women's work time is increasing if she goes to work, nothing else. Even in the best of the, I mean, even in the higher side of income, even if you look at the higher side of an ambience or a society or a country, this is the situation for women. So you can imagine the lower income countries, how women suffer as to what kind of work pressures they take, etc. What happens if they really go through all these things? Again, the medical point of view is also very clearly discussed as to how some of the professions, how much of cover they have given to the women, how much of occupational hazards these women face, and how many have been really addressed. Has it been, there is a very interesting thing, just going with data is one part of my review, but I was just come to think of the situation where just for the sake of an example, I'm saying you have one of your sibling, let us assume it's your brother. Your brother is playing somewhere. He has his friends, and let us assume it's cricket. So you stand there, you're just a bystander, you're just watching the game and you're enjoying it. All of a sudden, you realize that, there's nothing wrong in playing because you're also a good athletic kind of a person who wants to, see how your energies go when you actually are put to play. Then you ask them, can I join you? What they would say is something like, first of all, they look at each other and then they say, all right, she's your sister. Let's accept her. Let her come. Let's see what she can do. All those things. So first barrier is there itself. First of all, you are not belonging there and you are being accepted, rather you are being accommodated. You're being accommodated from them who are these, the other gender, obviously. So they will accommodate you. And then once you start playing, everybody is so meticulously looking at your performance. Obviously, it is very obvious because you are the odd one out, so-called odd one out. So remember, it is your problem. You wanted to go there. So this has been the continuous flaw. Where is the flaw here? There is absolutely no flaw here. If you look at it, I'm just taking this as a very simple example. I don't want to simulate it to any situation here. I'm only talking about the psychological aspect that is, coming out of this. How do you feel in such a situation? Whatever you do, less, more, less, whatever you do, everything is like immediately seen in a magnifier because you're still not among them. Most important point I want to put across is this is exactly how women feel or are made to feel when it comes to workplaces or when it comes to many other areas where actually we are talking about human rights issue. We are not talking about women's rights out here. We are talking about half or more than half of the global population are women. And we are talking about a human rights issue, which has largely been discounted in so many decades. So that is one aspect that I would like to broach upon. I request people to please mute yourselves. I can hear some crosstalk. I've done that. Okay, moving ahead, the myth of meritocracy. See, there are 16 chapters. It's not like how my friend Sandhya has done today. The book, the kind of books that we have taken up today are not so easy as such. But then the idea, to convey the idea about the book is all we are here to do. And there are 16 chapters and about, like I said, 50 to 150 reviews and surveys for each of the chapters. On an average, 83 if you look at it, which is not at all small. And these surveys actually provide the authenticity to the book. No wonder the book has won the prize, which is in which is from the Royal Society. Let me just read about a little bit about the prize and the Royal Society Insight Investment Science Book Prize and Financial Times Business Book of Year Award in 2019 have been given to the Invisible Women book by Caroline Criado-Perez. She has also written another book, which is Do It Like Women and Change the World. This is in 2015. Though that is, of course, I have not read that book, but this book itself has so much of data, such a vast data, it's mind-boggling actually. You will keep going and going and going into industries, into errors and more errors and bigger errors that have percolated into the kind of disasters that we are seeing today. If you ask me why it's a disaster, yes. Somebody comes and says, I have a problem with someone out there. The first reaction men or most of the systems do is fix the woman. Wow, wonderful solution. Excellent people. I mean, excellent. I mean, this is the greatest flaw that has been continuing right from generations. And this is exactly what she contradicts with a lot of data that she comes up with. And no wonder she has done an excellent job, because without data, there is nothing, that you can say that this is something right or wrong. Today, data is the king. Information is the king. Information is power. Yes, absolutely. And she has given it in the right stride, I would say. So this is absolutely required. She touches upon many other areas. If you look at how things go in, for example, just for an example, if you look at how things go in academics, how people, how usually success is supposed to be as per the number of publications and as per the number. Usually the research papers are of hold a very high order. What happens here? Very funnily, when women publish, there are issues here also. She talks about citations. There is one thing that is that is very important for research publications. Apart from citations, there's also another aspect which is to do with the reviewing part, that is the double-blind reviewing part. Very interestingly, this reviewing part is again connected to another industry, which is one of the music industries, where in 50s, earlier than 50s, there were no musicians, lady musicians. Most of them were males. All of a sudden, the number has increased from 0 to almost 10%. When they probed what the reason could be, they understood a very simple reason, that is, a screen is being put between the reviewer and the player, music player. Just to understand that it's just the talent that works, nothing else. Just like how we talk about double-blind, peer-reviewed journals and all those things, it's the same here. So when the lady plays, the person doesn't know whether it's a lady or a man, whatever. He just gives the credit, he or she just gives the credit, and the person is recruited. And this has led to a remarkable change in the recruitments in the years to come. Up to 50% the recruitments have happened, and there have been many more musicians who have come into fore. So this is for the music industry. Coming back to the academics as such, citations, very funnily, it seems that men do self-citations. 70% of the citations that men do are about themselves, whereas women do citations about other women. And there's another problem with citations that she really puts across, that is with the surnames or the first name and second name issue. Looking at the name, people tend to take the person as a male when actually it is a female. That's another issue that she talks about in the industry. Apart from this, there's another very important point which is supposed to do with the publication gap. If the number of publications come down, your chances of promotions and chances of career progression also comes down. So how do you publish? This is another place. When it is observed, it seems that women are given a lot of teaching load, and there is very less time for them to publish. And even when they publish, these are the other issues that are coming up in terms of citations, or whether it is review being done or the surnames creating a confusion, etc. So the teaching load is another aspect per se. I'm just taking an example of one industry because there are so many things that she has talked about, but the detailing with which she has gone into each of these industries is absolutely mind-boggling and astounding. And they will actually keep you, they will make you feel that how less do we know about the life around us. So everybody who has a reason, who has in fact, it is not just for women. I'm telling you, this is a book that has to be read by everybody who wants to change and make a difference in their life, or make a change in their life as well as others' life. Be it policymakers or be it people who are into very serious senior positions in the government or businesses. All the people have to read this book. This is as good as a textbook, except for the fact that the way it is narrated, the way it is done is different. But the number of citations, but the number of authentic papers that she has clearly indicated towards the end, there are very many, and definitely it can pass, except for certain places where perhaps again there could be academical discussions about how the teachers or the teaching guide like a textbook should be and shouldn't be, etc. One very interesting point that she talks about, in fact, it is related to what Sandhya spoke today. If you just blindly close your eyes and when I ask you to think about a scientist, who comes to your mind? So here again, I think some of you already know the answer, what I'm trying to indicate. This kind of thinking is has been what you called learned right from the school ages. So another interesting data shows that when children have joined school, at the time when they have actually joined school, when they were asked to draw an image of a scientist, almost 50% have put across a lady's face and 50% a male face. But eventually, as they grow up, who is a scientist as per you? About 7 years of age, this number has significantly come down. The women being a scientist has come down significantly. And by around 14 years, it has come down to almost 1/4. So what do you understand from this small experiment, or this small experiment, or rather the result of an experiment that has been conducted? It's very simple, that education, I was intelligent until the education ruined me. This is all I can recollect if I have to think about any absolutely coherent line that can connect this kind of a data and this kind of a mishap that happened. So taking on, it's not just even in the textbooks, if you look at it, the examples that are given, who according to you are the heroes, whether it is history, whether it is any place, there have been so many people, there have been so many women who have laid down their lives in so many generations, but not much of their data is available. This is exactly what she talks about as the data flawed, missing data, or misrepresenting the women as such. So this is happening in every place, not just education, not just medicine, not just sanitation. Oh, sanitation, that reminds me again. One last interesting experiment that we need to understand. Like I said, I'm not going to go with the whole book because it's a huge data. This last experiment that I would like to talk about, just give me a second. I would like to quote something. Lack of sanitation and crime rate. A study has been done by Yale University in 2015. When I'm talking about how our lives have been designed around us without our knowledge, without taking into account, without our needs, this is a perfect example for what I've just said. So Yale study in 2015, a mathematical model linking the risk of sexual assault to the number of sanitation facilities and the time a woman must spend walking to the toilet have been calculated, and the tangible costs have been calculated, and lost earnings, medical, court, and prison expenses being the tangible costs, the intangible costs being pain, suffering, risk of homicide, sexual abuse, etc. So in this, what Caroline Criado-Perez tries to argue is that if the state would have looked at the bigger costs, again in the economic aspects she is talking about, if the state would have looked at the bigger costs about how a woman can be taken care of, instead of she suffering the violence and the threat which are perpetuated because of the lack of facilities that have been given there. Had the sanitation been taken care of, had it been closer to where she works, she would go half the distance or less. She would cover less steps, and the chance of her being attacked will be less. Imagine the kind of detailing that she has gone into. So this has been Khayalit Shah, sorry, a township in South Africa, had an estimated 5,600 toilets for about 2.4 million, claiming 635 assault cases. So the number of toilets have been increased to 11,300 at a direct cost of $40 million. And the result has been that it has reduced the walking part to half a distance, and 30% of the sexual assault has been decreased. The sexual assault has been decreased up to 30%. So imagine these kinds of surveys, these kinds of reports actually show on your, they're actually I would say a slap on everybody's face as to understand this is what things have gone wrong, and this is how far things have gone wrong in so many years. So in summing up the whole data thing that she has talked about, I would only put one point, that whatever so far has happened, let us understand that these are all flaws, and there is no, by any chance, these are not the kind of flaws that can be excused anymore, because they have percolated enough into the nation, into the state, into the house, into every place. Now, recently, there is some data that I was looking at, post-COVID, there is a lot of domestic violence increased in India. I was just going through the data. See, what happens is that when men design things, and men design things according to what they think is right, according to what they think is the male standard. This is not just their, not one industry. VR, your gaming industry also, she talks about how actually women's body is designed and how men's body is designed, and how this simulation, when they actually do this, how it affects a woman. Because for her, the movement will create a kind of dizzy feeling, wherein on an average for males, it is very less. So imagine in every industry, now they are recruiting errors, including recruiting errors. If you're talking about the theory being percolated into some algorithms that are again made into recruiting errors, that's again a bigger error. And the funniest thing that I've come across is, you look at if I ask you something like, what do you think about a computer geek, or a guy who's very serious, or a nerd kind of a thing, like, he has his own stuff to do, he's very, very into the thing, he's a very intelligent guy, etc., etc. Look at what the history says. Actually, this has been started by a few women, 6 if I'm not wrong. They have been excellent at doing the computer programming. This was in early 50s, 40s sometime. After a point of time, some of the industry men, the big men in the industry, realized the worth of what this computer programming is. They started training these boys, and they started making them get into the main field, and started projecting these are the guys. So you look at the history, actually computer programming goes with a lot of detailing. It needs to have an eye to detail, which is very, by default, very, very, very much relevant with women. Even men, most of the men agree on this. And apart from that, a most important point, patience. Patience is another aspect where it is very, very inherent for that work. So these things again come back to the same point, that where are women being taken ride of? And another very crucial point is when there are researchers, female researchers and male researchers, there are so many people who are ready to fund the male researchers, not many takers for the females. Unfortunately, whether it is mentoring, whether it is funding for research, for whether it is even a job, immediately men have been always given wonderful opportunities, whereas women, no, it has not been the case in them. So going across, there are so many things that are coming to my mind, but I think I will just stop here. And all I have to say is representing women at the right places is very required. And only when we start doing this will the data gaps at least be addressed to some extent. I won't say filled, because there is tremendous data gap, tremendous misrepresentation so far. So women representing other women, or even whether it is men or women, it is a data gap. Data gap has got to do with the universality. It's nothing to do with men and women. What actually happened because of that, we are seeing today. So this has to be addressed and corrected, for which I would strongly feel that all people who want to speak about why things are going wrong with women, I won't say why women are wrong. No, the argument has always been flawed, and this has to be corrected. How come women are not mysterious creatures? They have not been given the right kind of platform to, first of all, understand, to be understood, and to be represented. Otherwise, things would have been different, and we would have seen a different history. So I think with that, I will stop my review, and let us have discussion. Thank you so much.
Good evening.